Hey everyone, welcome back to That's Growth Ops. Today, Chris and I are tackling something that we believe is at the heart of personal and professional success. Why mindset matters more than the tech we use. We'll be diving into the growing concerns around AI, privacy, and personal space. How technology like facial recognition apps is blurring the line between innovation and intrusion. But it's not just about tech. It's about the leadership and soft skills that we believe are crucial in navigating these challenges. From the evolution of growth operations to why education needs to focus more on critical thinking, we're here to show you how the mindset is the true differentiator in both life and business. So let's jump in. All right, well, we're back. Another fireside chat on That's Growth Ops. And, today, Chris, I kind of wanted to dive into something that I always found both fascinating and unsettling. But first, a quick shout out to last week's conversation with Dr. Todd Turner. I thought that was great. And it got me thinking a lot because we didn't just talk about AI in a theoretical way. We tackled some, what I'd say, ethical concerns about the environment and use in education. So how this is relevant to what I want to get into is I stumbled across a TikTok video the other day that had me thinking more about privacy and control and where we need to draw the line between innovation and personal space because it's no longer a future issue. It's happening right now. So here's the setup. I want you to imagine you're out on a walk. It's a beautiful day. Maybe you're strolling along the pier, just soaking it all in. And suddenly a random stranger just walks up to you, right? No introduction, no small talk. They just know exactly who you are. And I'd say like they know your name. They're asking questions about your life before growth. Maybe something that you posted on LinkedIn recently. A little creepy.
I think you're nailing a common thing. Yeah, that's super creepy. Not a fan.
Not a fan. So here's the kicker. It's not sci-fi. So a couple Harvard students created an app that uses AI and facial recognition to pull up any publicly available information on the spot about you.
Those are the meta glasses, right?
Those are the meta glasses.
Yeah, so man. Creepy stuff. And it sounds an awful lot like what people are doing with Outbound and Clay, to be completely honest. It's creepy.
It is. It's pretty creepy. What I thought was interesting, though, from the perspective was they weren't building a product to sell. They were just like proving a concept. But what they really wanted to do is they wanted to create awareness. They wanted to show just how much information that we're actually putting out there and how easily it can be accessed. So we don't.
No, I was going to say, like, it's pretty nuts, especially that a couple of kids, like respectfully, like young adults, were able to pair together I think it was like meta glasses to Instagram Live, software that pulled facial recognition off the Instagram Live feed to public databases and then fed it all back in under a minute.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's like where I'm sitting on this. Like the conversation with Todd kind of made me start thinking about it because like I think it was the same day when we recorded the last episode and then I saw the video and I was going, think about all the wearable tech that we have, all the information we share on our phones, social media, etc. It's kind of like a wake-up call to know that our digital lives are already out there. And once it's out there, you can't like take it back. So it's kind of scary. So, if that information got in the wrong hands of the bad actors out there, made me start questioning, like, how do we start protecting ourselves where personal privacy is really just an illusion?
It's hard because we give up a lot of, not freedom, but we give up a lot of data willingly in exchange for ease of communication, dopamine injections from other people liking stuff that we post. And it's kind of like most things that we're able to create for profit, like sugar, like it's cheap, people it sells. I mean, it's like a tale as old as time. This just has, kind of deeper scary points to it than like, okay, you're going to be overweight or sweat a lot. Like this is like, okay. I've noticed a recent trend for my friends and their kids, and a lot more on the California side, where if they post photos of their kids, they're putting smiley face emojis over their faces. Like even, which as an adult who's been in the tech industry, even though I don't have kids yet, I think that might be the direction I go to.
Yeah, it's definitely the direction that Queenie and I have decided. We don't even want to post. Like it was up until Aizen was about 4, and then we were like, we're not posting any more photos of her. There's just too many bad.
It's a bummer, right?
Because like
it should be able to be shared, but there's people that find ways to create opportunities for themselves, and it's just the nature of the beast with all things. Back in the days of fire. Woo, we're warm now. We can cook our food. Burn your house down. You're like, humans, man, we can't just enjoy technology upgrade. We got to find a way. Some of us have to find a way to really mess around with it. How's that? Tying AI back to fire. You're welcome.
There you go.
That piece.
We'll call you Prometheus.
It's human nature. It's awful.
Yeah.
At the same time, that same experiment of someone taking real-time information to find information out, if I was looking at through the B2B sales and marketing lens, would be really cool to have at a trade show. Hey, Chris. Hey, man, I know you've been doing growth, and I would assume that we had met at some point, but really, you've got a person feeding you data points about me. That would be...
Well, that was the thing I was considering when I was giving my monologue. I'm like, is he going to be like, oh yeah, no, they know Chris because the podcast, or they've seen him talking on LinkedIn, which is cool in the B2B sense, but just some random guy. I don't know.
No, man, I think you're right. The random guy talking to you, like that act of breaking the boundary, like a personal space boundary. This is similar to what like celebrities talk about. Like some people are very pro doing it. Some people are very like it's overstepping. So each to their own boundaries. I've been in a public space for a long time, so I've used to it. Don't always love it, but it's just kind of the cost of doing business. Yeah, it's interesting, man. This is tying this conversation back to what we do, parts of what we do, which is like outbound and generating conversations. There should be ways where this is used well, even with, I jokingly mentioned Clay earlier. Like there's people that are pulling the weirdest type of personalization tokens to talk to me. And I don't know who is talking about these playbooks or like getting all these LinkedIn gurus pumped up about why this is cool, because you can do a lot of it. But doing a lot of something shitty is still a lot of shitty and doesn't move the needle at all. Yeah. So sorry, I've definitely been in work mode this week and doing a lot of standing on podiums and talking. I hope that recognition software, we're talking about it in a stranger, finding out some stuff about a stranger and saying hello. And then we talked about it with business. But like it would be great if we could use this for good and get rid of, nefarious people that are out there, and being able to say, ha, sneaky SOB, we found you. But I don't know how that would work, but hopefully that's a outcome. Although I may have just described Minority Report with Tom Cruise.
Yeah. So as soon as I watched that video, it made me think of every time Tom Cruise walked past one of those eye scanners and it like clocked him. I'm like, oh man, that's where we're going. That scares me.
I mean, sci-fi does such a good job of like almost prophesizing the future. These people that make up the stories can just see the progress and seemingly tell the future. It's pretty wild.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't for sci-fi, we wouldn't have a lot of the technology we have, because in my mind, it's like watching Star Trek as a kid, the communicator device. And then when the iPhone released, I was like, that's right out. Like when FaceTime came out, it's like, there it is right there. I mean, we had webcams, we had stuff like that, but we weren't streaming 4K over the web and stuff like that. But I think it's as we've gotten older and gotten into our careers and stuff, we're like, well, how could I turn this into reality? Like there's a dude in Russia that made an Iron Man suit, and he built the first portable hydrogen reactor to make it work.
Wow.
Yeah. He spent like the last year, he's got a whole YouTube channel on it and all that. But point being, it's these things that inspire us to go off and create. But again, I want to draw back the parallel of are we doing it for the right reason or not?
I mean, reason aside of what people are going, technology
People are
can
going
be
to do what
used
they
for
do.
good or bad. So who knows the answer to that question, Rich? I feel like that's a tale as old as time. It's like, oh, that's cool. And then someone's like, oh, man, that's cool. And I can use it in this sneaky way. And again, just keep yourself protected. Be aware of the policies that you're signing for the data that you're giving and all of those things, and realize, Skynet is potentially a thing if we're talking about sci-fi telling the future. So say please and thank you for your Chat GPT bot.
Perfect. So you said you've been in work mode and on a lot of podiums this week. What have you been up to?
Just like very fortunate. I think the conversations we've been curating around growth operations is like a new operational framework is starting to resonate more often. So that's been fun. I've been on a couple of podcasts. I've led a couple leadership think groups, and even was asked to step in and talk to a group of HubSpot partners who are growing their business. So it's a lot of fun. It gives me like a good chance to think about the words that are going to come out of my mouth. And to like Peter Caputo, when we had him on, what feels like days ago, but it was months ago, I guess now, as a person that is growing, and I don't know everything, but I have strong thoughts, having this space to talk to people of like minds and of equal backgrounds is really nice. I'm not afraid of some pushback, excuse me, which has allowed us to evolve this growth operationals framework because there's like some logic behind it. But now I think people are understanding the reason an operational framework is evolving from revenue operations being such a focus to growth operations being such a focus is technology has evolved. So now there's actually software that allows you to look at the sales and the marketing and the customer service and see how they interact. And we now have had the CRM technology for long enough where in most cases that I am speaking about, which is tenured companies that are making real dollars, like the 10, 50, 100, $500 million companies, they've had these technologies in place long enough where there's adoption. So if you have the technology and you have the adoption portion, this is how innovation starts to happen. And so I'm really excited to just continue the conversation about growth. And yes, it's very on the nose, but kind of intentional. I just didn't realize that the growth ops conversation was going to start getting as big as it's starting to get.
It's been interesting watching the trend, and I think we've talked about it before, about how we see rev ops and growth ops kind of stacking together. Is that because of a digression? People are starting to think growth ops and that's why they're kind of balanced out, or like, what are you thinking there?
I don't think that they are balanced out. I think revenue operations is one of the components of the umbrella that makes up growth operations.
Mm-hmm.
Revenue operations, creating the systems and mechanisms to track KPIs is important. Marketing operations, the marketing strategies and the components that make up the strategies and deploying it is important. Same with sales and service. But again, each of those, up until very recently, were at best their own software silo, their own departmental silo. And as companies have to become more efficient and more clearly communicate, then instead of having siloed software, thanks to people like HubSpot, they're like, well, that's weird. If you want to talk marketing, shouldn't that be important to what the salespeople are talking about and the customer service people are talking about? And again, revenue operations, the technical putting in of pulleys and levers is needed to deploy the software, but it doesn't create the framework of how do these things work together and what are the mechanisms and the buttons to push and when and how to actually grow. And I think this is just, we saw it early, maybe because of the branding or maybe just because I'm starting to get old. And, now I'm shooting out like louder flares into the universe, hoping for pushback. And there's a lot less of it now and a lot more like this is logical and makes sense and is a thing, I guess, is the easiest way to say it.
Yeah. I was waiting for a Voltron or a Captain Planet conversation to start there.
You must be looking at my latest LinkedIn post because it's there.
I am. I did. Yeah.
I don't want to drop it too many times, but I think it makes sense, right? Like, there's a couple of players that make up this larger character superhero, if you will. At least it's the way to translate that. Revenue operations is the green lion and sales ops is the red lion, but whatever, they all combine into one super thing.
Growthtron.
Exciting. Two specifically Voltron.
That's great. You've been having, like, I've been watching your conversations on LinkedIn, pulling tidbits and things like that, and I'm excited by the way you break it down, and nothing is excluded. It's all there to make everything grow. So I think that there's power there.
Yeah, and I think it's fun, man. Like, admittedly, I mean, this all kind of ties back to like mindset. And I was introduced to a new term today by somebody on LinkedIn called neuro leadership, which is essentially a cute, fancy word for mindset at its most basic elements. And it's fun because these like hippie-ish, non-directly influenced phrases and thoughts are tying to these operational frameworks and structures. And when applied, companies grow, and it's just exciting. Diversity and equity and a lot of the things that Dr. Todd Turner mentioned in our previous episode are really like coming to fruition in the real business world, and programs like his at UNC Chapel Hill, I think, are going to help develop the next rounds of leaders that can influence how business is done in a really positive way.
Yeah, that was good. What did you call that? Neuro leadership?
Neuro leadership.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody just like dropped a DM to me. I'm unsure what their name was, but hopefully if they're listening, it's pretty interesting. I'll go down the rabbit hole this weekend once I finish the Outbound Sales book by Josh Garrison at Apollo.
Yeah,
pretty close to that.
How's that running? How's that book going?
I mean, it's super dry unless you love outbound operations, which I do. So, I mean, it really is a textbook for doing outbound in 2024. It shows you percentage rates and outbound rates and why this works. And any question any client asks us about most of what we do is in this book, honestly. You can find it on Amazon. It's just always it feels good to be talking about this stuff, and everyone's like, what the hell are they talking about? And then 2 years later, people are like, hey, look at this book. And we're like, damn, we should have wrote that thing 2 years ago. But life's all about timing.
It is. I actually ordered a copy. I'm just waiting for it to show up. So I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. It's like $5. So why not? If you're in the space. Plus Joshua Garrison is like the coolest. So I'd support him anytime. Especially for $5.
We've had some conversations on leadership this week as well, you and I. And one thing that I wanted to kind of share that I was looking into throughout the whole week was you'd said to me, I'm paraphrasing, but you've created a dependency on you, meaning me. I created the dependency on me. So to know and use your resources, know what you can get, what you can and can't get out of them. And I think stepping into that this week really put me in a different perspective of how we can elevate the team, help them grow, and ultimately, even for myself, not being afraid to hand things off and collaborate quicker.
It's emotional conversation. I get it.
That's the dry voice. Anyways, but yeah, no. So I wanted to thank you for that, dropping that bomb, because I do listen to what you say.
I know that you are growing.
Doesn't always get put in. Yeah, but
no,
I felt a very different week this week. So I just wanted to kind of dig into that a bit and where that can come from. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's a thought that's percolating. I'm analyzing it every day. And I think more people in their role need to look at that too. Especially
leadership is a skill, man. It's like riding a bike. You have to first be taught how to ride a bike, and then you have to ride a bike. And if you don't ride a bike for a while, sometimes it's a little wobbly to get back on. So one, it's cool that you're using this platform to say that you received feedback from me and you learned some things and you're applying it to everyday life. That's cool. That's like, I think, a very mature, maybe without the platform, but just knowing that there's room to grow is not for everybody. So that's awesome. And then the fact that you're applying it is also awesome. You know, a lot of people that are stepping into a leadership role or a management role for the first time are given that because they're very good at doing a thing, right? And then the company is growing, and so they're like, you're good at doing a thing, you're obviously going to be good at teaching other people to do the thing, which is not at all how that works.
No.
Turns out,
I wish it was.
Yeah, managing is like a skill, but companies are becoming more flat because of technology, and so a gap that has been created is mindset and leadership. Again, with Todd and the Peter Caputas and just all these people that we have been talking to about what we do, I think mindset and leadership is like a very unexpected shadow that has been cast by our show and the conversations that we curate. I guess maybe it would be helpful for people that listen to maybe understand a little bit more about the situation we're talking about. So let me give you all like a 30-second synopsis of Richard Walsh at Growth. Hopefully I don't overspeak Rich, but probably will. Okay, 30 seconds or less. Rich and I met a few years ago. He had his own firm, basically like a super entrepreneur, solopreneur situation. You have always been wicked smart, as they say in Boston. So eventually we found the opportunity to work together. This was about 8 or 9 months ago, basically a few weeks before we started this show. You're super smart. I'm saying it's obvious that management is a leadership skill that needs to be trained. Put you in a management leadership skill with their training. That was my mistake. We gave you a couple of people of varying levels, of how far they are in their own growth journey. Probably would have done that differently in hindsight, but you went at it with a positive attitude, and the gains were slow and hard to find. And, 8, 9 months later, they're very much clearer, maybe not very clear, much clearer. You have developed processes, you have routine check-ins with your team, and you're doing a better job delegating and communicating expectation, which, by the way, probably one of the hardest things about leadership are those two things.
Especially for a guy that doesn't like to give stuff up.
I mean, in the thing that I did for HubSpot today, talking to the HubSpot partners, like that was one of the questions, like, how did you let go? And it does feel a bit like a trust fall, like in these environments. You create something and then it's like, I just got to let you take the wheel type situation to catch me. You don't always get caught. Sometimes you get banged up a little bit, but you have to, in order for you to grow in your career, you have to manage people. That's just like the nature of the corporate machine. So this was going to happen regardless. So I'm thankful that it happened here. As a leader, I learned what I would do differently. I then get to show you in real time that that's how I take it. So you're also getting reinforced that, hey, I didn't expect perfection. I expect the positive attitude and I expect a growth mindset. And all of this fun stuff is what makes up like real company culture. Like, what if I would have put you in that scenario and I'm on here on LinkedIn being like, yeah, mental health, yeah, positive attitude, yeah. And then I was like, figure it out or you're fired. That would be crazy. But it happens all the time.
It does.
This stuff takes time. No AI tool was going to help you be a better manager. I should have done a better job creating a plan and giving you the tools and resources to be successful. And I didn't do that, which is why I always circle back to everything's my fault, which is what I mean by that is my responsibility. And so when a good outcome happens, no matter who on the team it happens from, I pat myself on the back a little bit. That's just how it should go. When things go wrong, I always accept responsibility, which doesn't always mean now that we're as big as we are that I can fix it. I just know that I have to fix the thing that led to the thing that led to the thing that led to the thing.
I will say one thing that's commendable, and that wasn't 30 seconds, Ben. Thank you. But one thing that is commendable.
Not 30 seconds. That was the Crystal GPT version of 30 seconds.
Exactly. You are able to jump into problem solving mode quickly. And I think that that's not something that most people can do. But to piggyback off some of what you're saying, is especially how you brought AI into that conversation. I recently wrote something on the growth blog. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's all about soft skills and how important soft skills are moving into the AI era. And what I basically said, I won't read the whole thing, but I'll take a small excerpt of it. AI is only getting smarter, but soft skills are what will keep you ahead. As machines take over more technical tasks, the people who excel will be the ones who master emotional intelligence, creativity, and adaptability.
It also creates a vacuum, though. Like,
it does.
To really, because you have all these skills and stuff. Usually these soft skills were developed in a way to enable the skills to happen. I'm very fortunate in hindsight. I didn't think it was fortunate at the time. My dad's a military officer, retired. I was laughing because it was awful. But what was nice about it was I was very much like raised is a better word, in leadership environments. So if I was a soccer team, Boy Scouts, you name it, and I was taught very early on about responsibility, about effective communication, still working on it, about mindset, about knowing your tools and resources. And, I think one of my favorite things I'm getting out of life these days is identifying potential, like with you, and then helping grow it, I guess. I mean, it's a great word, and if that's what I end up ultimately doing in my career path, like, I would be very happy. I really do enjoy the coaching aspect and mindset aspect. I didn't know that until recently.
It's interesting.
Who knew?
It's very deep mindset and growth conversation today, I
think. It's been the whole week, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of the fourth quarter kicked off, and now, the leadership at companies are throwing these what are we going to do next year conversations at me, and we're having our own what are we going to do next year conversations. I mean, this is the time for the planning.
Yeah.
AI is so cool, but it's also so what the hell is that? And how do I do it right? And how do I do it wrong? I mean, there's just still so much up in the air around it. So that's been a hot topic. But just like you pointed out, those soft skills, mindset, positive attitude, the ability to see something through. I mean, I really hope programs like the mighty program at UNC Chapel Hill, I hope more of those things start to pop up. And I don't think you need a structure as formal as a master's program. I think this is could be a community-led thing. All over the place.
Yeah, I think along with that too, the development of soft skills in real life application throughout all form of education needs a bit of a stronger presence there. For a very long time, the education system has been, let's produce factory workers. Let's get them to be able to fulfill a task. But we haven't been teaching people, and it's starting to show, how to think out critically, how to think outside the box, how to solve problems. I mean, if you go down an engineering track, probably there's a lot more of that, but I don't see it in the other areas of education. So I think a bit of building that out is going to be a big piece, especially as AI becomes more prominent. It's not going anywhere. It's here. We need to face that reality.
Yeah.
And just discover
I think
who can use it.
No, right? I mean, you're seeing it I mean, I don't want to be Gen Z or whatever the hell comes after them. Double Z. I don't know if they have a name for them yet. They're not
Alpha, I think is what they're calling it. Gen Alpha.
Dumb name that is. But we'll talk about market segments and why they get names in a second potentially. But if kids are being brought up with video games, they're very cool, and they're interacting, and they're not going and meeting new people because it's hard, and they're not challenging themselves. Again, this universe just creates people without the soft skills. And it's like so sad because so much of life for me that's been so fulfilling are those relationships that get forged out of a sport or get forged out of a long-term working relationship or even like a project. But if you don't put yourselves in the position to like go through that and get better, you're never you're gonna be afraid of this stuff for the rest of your life. And as you have seen, like I am not afraid of a problem. But that's only because I've created and mostly solved many of them, thousands, maybe tens of thousands over the course of my career by default. Also being a solopreneur and having a company for a while, you're forced into it. So, but I don't know how you create the desire. Like, how do you plant the seed in somebody to want to be challenged? Maybe the only way to do that is create a place where they're very safe in order to do that. Like, every once in a while I get pissed off. I know I'm working on it, but I'm not like slandering or, I'm just like, and you can visually tell I'm frustrated. That's about as harsh as it gets, I hope.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Slides $20 through the screen.
I have no idea what Chris is talking about, guys. He is an angel and the nicest person in the world.
Well, I was told that helping is my brand, right? Which thanks Alex Mead of HubSpot. That was very cute. I appreciate that. And cute's not fair. Like, it was really refreshing reading it on screen and then having it appear a few times throughout the conversation. I think he is right. But that doesn't mean I'm like an angel or perfect. Like, I am very human. I am very flawed. I am very self-aware of my shortcomings or things that could be framed as shortcomings that I've learned to lean into, like my intensity. Just learning to dial it down or dial it differently has kind of been my theme for 2024. I'm a big, deep-voiced, broad-shouldered dude. I can't change that. I don't want to change that. But how can I use these for tools for good that can empower my team, empower my clients, rather than them just being walls, is a conscious effort. And I apply energy all the time towards it. Still don't have it all figured out.
And why would you want to have it all figured out? Right?
Well, it's because it's tiring. Spending energy evolving. Honestly, it is. It's being self-aware at all is the opposite of being ignorant, and ignorance is bliss, right? Because you don't have to worry about anything else. So, there's a lot of responsibility when you're choosing to identify something about you that you want to change, and then you make a change, and it doesn't happen overnight. That's why I say it's exhausting. That's probably like not the most positive description of it, but it does take a lot of energy, and the more energy you use, the more tired you get. So I think it's accurate. But the outcome is great, man. Like,
it's that filling your cup piece, right? If you fill it with the big rocks first, there's going to be no room for anything else. So figuring out where to put that energy is the important part.
Yeah. Again, I don't have it right all the time. But I do also make intentional choices that help and make it better, like getting plenty of sleep, drinking lots of water. I know these sound so like basic, but they're done very intentionally. What other funky things? Reading, spending time outside. These are decisions I make with to help a better outcome. Because if I was exhausted, or if I was hungry, or if I was parched, I would come across differently. So, you too can be nicer if you get plenty of sleep and eat vegetables.
Making videos of harbor seals hanging out. That's pretty peaceful.
Okay, I will say that there was an intentional decision about moving to Monterey and knowing, because at the point, dude, when I moved to Monterey, 3 years ago, that was a very stressful point in my life. Like, it was not like, hey, we're just killing it. We moved during COVID from San Francisco, and it was quite opposite. It was very stressful for me. But I knew that if I could go to a place that was basically like being on vacation, and we got very lucky, we found a beautiful home close to the water. Loved having you and your family visit. I do have a cheat code. If I am experiencing an amount of anything, I can reset pretty quickly. That was an intentional decision, and I use it often. Less often than I used to, though. Before, like every day, I needed to like go and put my feet in the water. Now I do it often, but it's less of a prescription and more of a luxury.
I get that. That's why I love living next to the mountains.
Yeah,
and being set up in a way where I can actually look out the window and see them. Because at that point, it's like before, I think it was lived a little bit further east. I'd get in the car at least once a week and drive out and just go sit there. And my wife is not the outdoorsy person. You know this. She did great at Big Sur, but she's not the outdoor person. Me, I will go sit on that mountain and I'll sit there for several hours and just think. And because technology isn't working out there, I can just unplug. It's great. And I think
you've got a hell of a view, man. Yeah, those northern lights are looking really great. And I've been getting this. What is that? Why can everybody see it all of a sudden? Not everybody, but like way more people. That can't be a good thing, right?
I don't know. I think the timeliness of that plus Hurricane Milton at the same time, there's got to be some level of correlation here. Because around this time I think I even said in like the team chat was, we don't typically see the purples here where I live, and they're really, really prominent. And man, they were just like dancing last night. I think I sat outside for like 2 hours just watching. But
that's super cool. Yeah, I think, and for me, the hustle and bustle of being in the city makes it really tough. It's tough to reset. But hey, if you're in the area, come meet me out in Monterey. We've got office space for you. Get a little hike in.
Great place. I like it.
I love it.
A little hike.
By a little hike, your long hike. Perspective, man.
Yeah, long legs, short legs.
I have plenty of buddies that have blown out shoes trying to keep up with me walking through San Francisco or the hills of Big Sur.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, it's a good place to go. I'll be back 100%.
I think
will I move there? I don't know.
I hope so. I know. I'm trying to be like, hey, Amy, what do you think? Maybe you could set up a couple of months and, you can go camping on the weekends and you can do development at the office. And Amy, if you're listening, that would be so cool, though. Like, if we could have the whole team here for a week, I would like it. And I suppose we should be doing that sooner than later.
That boardroom would be pretty full.
I would see like more of a pod setup, right? Like, maybe we like intentionally set up each of the office suites with like a room and seats, and then do some. Why am I like brainstorming the growth retreat right now? We could do that on another time, but
there we go.
We got to be intentional about spending time together. We missed you at Inbound, but it was really great getting some of us together for that, and just drives home the reality that we have some really amazing humans at Growth.
We really do.
I feel really fortunate.
I've watched, I don't know if the audience, if you haven't checked it out yet, go on to our YouTube and watch our Inbound recap. It's not the typical recap. I find when I've watched it several times now, and every time I watch it, I'm like, man, I want to work with that team. They seem cool.
That's one of the secondary values of the way that we're approaching marketing. Again, one of the questions I was asked by these HubSpot partners are like, how do you do outbound? And the way I kind of explained what we're doing is we have a lot of knowledge at Growth, and we understand that we can help. We love to help people, and we know we can help lots of marketers and salespeople and managers and directors, but only a couple of them are going to want to pay us to do what we do because we're expensive, and people want to try it themselves. It's cool. So why not tap into our passion for helping and our knowledge, and ungate it, make it available for anybody to use. And then, if you're interested in hiring us or having a conversation deeper about some of the conversations that we've curated, like, please do. And no, we're not getting millions of views on YouTube, but I'm getting more people reaching out to ask about working at Growth. I'm engaging with people in the sales process and then popping up a month later saying that hey, that thing you did or you all did was really helpful. We're seeing old customers coming across this stuff in the wild and then saying like, I cannot believe how much bigger you guys have gotten. I want to talk to you about this stuff. So just like hindsight's 2020 when it came to like tapping into managing you as a manager, in hindsight, and maybe into 2025, we'll be able to take some time and say, we got to practice a bunch of things and a lot of things we got right and plenty of things we got wrong. But now we know way more on process and outcome and expectations than we ever did. And then we'll probably make some content about creating content. Who knows? So we can share it with people. But you got to do it in 2024 and definitely in 2025. People want to know who you are, what you sell, why you sell it, what makes you different. And you can do it with your cell phone. I do a bunch of my stuff. Just got a crazy thought. Saw someone popping off about something ridiculous on LinkedIn. So I got to do a retort video. HubSpot launches a new product. I got to talk about it. Boom, 30 seconds. Okay, minute and a half. Rant on my phone. Poof, live.
Turning into a 30-second rant, turning into a complete and big, huge cohort.
So, it has to be done, and it
does.
It has to be done. That's the period, point blank. It has to be done that way. I don't feel comfortable charging when we're learning, and I don't think HubSpot even understands the tools that they've created. And there's only people pretending that they know how it all works. But when then you question them in the room, they're like, well, I'm still figuring it out. Why can't people just say that? Like, and why would help me do that live? Anyway,
let me help you figure it out. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, right? Like, please.
Yeah. Just let me in there. Let me play with it.
I'll find it. You know what I say about marketing, man? It's constant. It's like a rugby game. You're constantly playing, and you're playing against the All Blacks. So marketing is you're playing against the All Blacks. They're insanely talented. You are feeble young adults, and you just have to keep getting smashed until you make that one play and you gain some yardage. But when you do, it feels really, really good. And as soon as it feels good, you get hit and you got to start over. And that's just the marketing game. It'll always be that way. It's only going to get more aggressive as more tools and more companies and more consumers hit the market. Capitalism.
Well, and when you find that play that works, it doesn't mean it's always going to work either, right? So it's
100%.
Okay. Yeah. They've learned our play. Now we need to adapt. And how quickly can you do that? And I think over the last 2 weeks, that's shone some light into areas of improvement, like how quickly we can adapt and turn the ship. Right.
Yep. It goes back to mindset, goes back to iteration. Again, like goes back to, man, these schools or these parents, local communities, scout troops, whatever. People need to be teaching young adults these skills and reinforcing them in places like that I just described. And then companies, man, like you have to take the responsibility to know if you're hiring a human, part of you has to be like training and upskilling and providing the environment for them to thrive, which is expensive and exhausting. And that's just how it's going to be. Who knows? Maybe that'll be the next thing I do is create a teaching people to be good leaders framework. Who knows? I think anybody can be a leader, though. I just think that needs to be training as required. Yeah. You're not born a leader, basically.
Yeah. There was a quote, I can't remember who said it, that leadership is a choice. Right? You got to choose it. You got to want to do it. It's like, I'm not going to blast my wife, but I am. She will avoid any management level position possible. I love her. She does not want to deal with the emotionality behind it. She's great. She's a great leader. She really is. Yeah. It's just the toll that it takes on her is crazy. And she's like, I don't have the capacity for that. I don't want to put my capacity towards that. So no thanks. I mean, she's turned down management roles like crazy lately. But
no. I can tell you that what she is feeling is what any genuine leader feels, though. It is a toll. It is emotionally taxing. And in most places, the give of what you are, or the get from what you're giving, the math doesn't math. I've been in it so long, I wouldn't know any other way than to wear the burden of leadership. But to me, there could be 1,000 things that chip away at my armor. And then when you see like Rick, who's been running our community, for Katrina to identify that we want to give him a little bit of time within our HubSpot implementation. So he's already basically a HubSpot expert because he uses the tool every day. That was like a proud moment. Katrina identifying it, seeing what works and what doesn't with teaching people new skills, building all that out, bringing you into the conversation, you leading the conversation with Rick, and then Katrina then had the handoff to Katrina. Like all of that would have never existed 6 months ago or a year ago, 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. That would have just been me. So that was like a quadruple proud parent moment. And in leadership, hopefully that's how your journey goes. You get a little bit of wins early on, and then they become a little bit bigger, and then they become exponential because 4 cool things happened. So that felt great.
It did feel great. And I'm excited to see that that adventure for him. So it's great.
Yeah, a little bit of framework I think is going to go really far with him.
Yeah. Well,
like for that stuff. I can do it. I know. Thank you.
There comes a time where you get to choose and not choose what you don't want to do, right?
Hey, even I'm using Asana. I'm just saying. Perfectly? No. But
that
anybody else could just say
wake up call.
Was it?
Yeah. It's like if Chris is in here, there is absolutely no excuse why anybody can't do this. And it's not an attack on your knowledge or your ability. It is just you've got so many high level things going on, but you still make the time and the effort to do it because you know the importance of it.
Thank you. So that's leadership, right? It's not just like pointing your finger and say, go. To me, I think they call it like servant leadership. I think it's kind of like a lame name, but just being a part of the leadership. Oh, God damn it. Adam Kelly, that was brought up last week by Todd. This is the last time I bring him up, but he did it. He was in the fire, and I was raised as that part of my journey. I was raised as that's the type of leader to be. So when I went to college and he was the first person in the first environment, he reinforced it to me, and I got to take the keys from him. I think it may have been him, Vince, me, but it was a good dude. Leadership I want to say leadership sucks. Leadership doesn't suck. It's just a lot, and it's very intentional, and what good or not good comes out of it is correlated to the person that is providing said leadership. So do a good job. Care. If you need a break, fess up about it and step aside. Not you. You're stuck.
No, I'm good. That's good. With that, we're coming up on that time. So what is we've discussed a lot. What is your big takeaway this week that you want to leave everyone with? And then we'll get into the shameless plugs.
The biggest takeaway is these days, no matter if I'm talking about AI or leadership or software or increasing sales or inter-team dynamics, every single conversation I'm having is circling back to mindset. And I think more of us are going to see more of that happening in our LinkedIn feeds and our TechCrunch articles, because technology is only as good as us wielding it, I guess, for now. And there's a lot of work we as humans have to do to get back to our roots of what made us so great as a species to begin with, and I hope we take that seriously.
That's a very good takeaway. Shameless plug time. All right.
Okay, cool. Click here, swipe up. No.
If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. Stay up to date with our episodes. And Chris is just pointing in 1,000 directions. Spotify, hit that follow button. We've also, just as of today, launched Growth's official newsletter. You can check that out by going to growthoperationsfirm.com/newsletter. There's a glorious photo of Chris with his new Chris Hemsworth hair.
Oh, God.
And be sure to check out the show notes for any additional pieces of information. And before we wrap up, Chris, what's on your Spotify?
Ooh. All right. I'm going to give it to you. 1 second. Oh, Like That by Future.
I like that.
Oh, yeah.
I got Hold Your Head, the Notorious B.I.G.
Ooh. Jay-Z just bought his crown for $500,000 to give to his daughter. Maybe that
did not know that. That's a trophy.
Anyway, I appreciate you, man. I hope everybody's enjoying this. As we get closer to the end of the year, we're going to probably end up starting to wind down this season and then see what we end up doing in 2025. I'm getting pumped. I'm getting excited for next year already.
Me too. And the planning of next year. All right.
Woo!